One of the most prevalent questions people ask when it comes to changing their body composition is whether you can lose fat and build muscle at the same time. I mean, it sounds like a really good outcome, doesn't it? Who doesn't want to get ripped and more muscular simultaneously? But is it really possible to do this? Well, before I answer this question, I'm going to reframe this topic of whether you can lose fat and build muscle at the same time with a better question to ask yourself. And that is, are you looking to lose a significant amount of fat and gain a significant amount of muscle, or are you only looking to do a little bit of either? If the answer to that question is yes, and you're looking to do a substantial amount of both at the same time, you're probably only going to achieve this if you fit into one of the four following categories. Firstly, you're a newbie to training. If you're a beginner, you're the most prime you'll almost ever be for any strength training adaptations, and you'll likely have plenty of fat to lose and plenty of muscle to gain. And this can also be the case if you're returning to training after a significant layoff and you have a lot of muscle memory to tap into. In either situation, there's a rapid increase in the rate of muscle protein synthesis, and this is evident in the guidelines regarding protein intake. For instance, for someone who does strength training regularly, the general recommendation is around 2 grams of protein per kilogram of body weight, whereas a recommendation is half this amount for someone who does not train. When you initially commence intense training, this also usually has a big impact on your metabolism and the amount of energy your body begins to require for both your training and your recovery. Whereas if you've been training for a while already, your body is more adapted to these processes. The second kind of person who can significantly lose fat and build muscle is an overweight or obese person. The reason being is that if you're this kind of person, you have a bigger fuel tank of energy to tap into in order to build muscle. That bigger fuel tank is a large amount of body fat that you're carrying around. This bigger body size also makes exercise more energy intensive compared to someone who is smaller of similar training ability. The third kind of person who can lose a significant amount of fat while also building a significant amount of muscle is a genetically gifted person. If you're in this category, you're likely athletically gifted and represent a small percentage of the population. If you're genetically gifted, you often have an advantage when it comes to gaining muscle and losing fat for several reasons. Firstly, you might possess more fast-twitch muscle fibers than the average person, which means you have a greater capacity for muscle growth. Secondly, your bone structure might be more advantageous for building muscle too. For instance, if you have wider clavicles and narrow hips, this body type can provide better structure for carrying muscle mass. And the third reason why you can significantly build muscle and lose fat as a genetically gifted person is that you may inherently possess optimal hormone levels for muscle building and getting leaner. For instance, some people may have naturally higher levels of hormones like testosterone and growth hormone, which are crucial for both building muscle and losing fat. And if you're genetically gifted, your hormonal status might also be conducive to recovery as well. Fast recovery between workouts means you can train more frequently and stimulate more muscle growth. And of course, we can't forget about metabolic rate either. This is usually naturally higher too if you're genetically gifted, and it's just another reason why getting leaner can also be easier. The fourth kind of person who can lose a significant amount of fat while also building a significant amount of muscle is an anabolic steroid user. If you're on performance-enhancing drugs, the muscle building signaling can be very strong, and you'll often utilize a lot of your own body fat for the muscle building process. And this shouldn't be underestimated. Steroids are powerful because they can significantly reduce your inflammation, increase your red blood cell production, and increase your protein turnover. Not to mention they can significantly raise your metabolic rate. Now, I'm not recommending that you take steroids, I'm merely stating the facts. And if you see someone who's made significant body composition changes in a short amount of time and they don't fit into the 3 categories I mentioned before, it's more than likely that they're getting some pharmaceutical assistance. To give you an idea, on average, the most muscle a natural guy can typically gain is between half a pound to 2 pounds of muscle per month. For a natural woman, the rate is typically half that. So if you see someone who's greatly exceeding that rate of development, it should raise an eyebrow. And when it comes to these 4 types of people that I've just covered, I'm guessing that you, like me, may not fit into any of these categories. If you're not one of these people, you can still lose fat and build muscle at the same time, but it's going to be a lot slower in the long run. To give you an example, I built some muscle and lost some fat last year while transitioning to a higher fat diet. Although the changes in my physique were visible, these changes are certainly not as dramatic as when body composition change was my main goal, and I was singularly focused on either losing fat or gaining muscle. The biggest changes I've seen in my physique have been the result of when I'm solely focused on increasing my intake over time to bulk up, or when I've solely focused on decreasing my intake over time to lean down. Admittedly, I could have been a bit cleaner with my bulking up at times, but the overall principle still stands. If, however, you're more comfortable with more modest body composition changes over time, then you can look to lose fat and build muscle concurrently. This is personally my preferred approach nowadays because my goals are centered more so around performance than how my body looks. But my guess is that if you're watching this video, you want to make significant and noticeable changes to your physique, and that's okay. You just need to realize the limitations of trying to lose fat and build muscle at the same time and trying to get your body to do two different things. Oftentimes it's best to just have a dedicated focus on one particular goal, otherwise you'll chase two rabbits and you'll likely catch neither of them. If your results suck and you haven't got anywhere with your physique goals, then this is likely what's happening. Instead, you need to focus on one body composition goal for an extended period of time to give it time to work before switching to a completely different body composition goal. This is also the main reason why most bodybuilders follow dedicated bulking and cutting phases rather than doing maintenance phases to change their body. And if the best physique athletes in the world swear by this approach, it's probably a worthwhile approach for you too. And if you're constantly fraying to and fro between bulking up and leaning down, and you can't decide which goal to choose, realize that this is usually an emotional battle rather than one based on logic. If you want to build a decent amount of muscle, then you need to come to terms with carrying a bit of excess fat and not seeing ripped abs for a while. By the same token, if you want to really lean down, you need to come to terms with the fact that you're not going to feel out your shirts as much. If you're concerned that you're getting overly fat while you're bulking, then you need to ensure that you're not dirty bulking or eating excessively to make the scale move. Similarly, if you're leaning down and you're losing too much muscle, you're probably cutting your intake too aggressively to get leaner. It's best to lose weight patiently and gain weight patiently. This way you'll have a lot less muscle loss or fat accumulation to deal with later on. Anyway, let me know in the comment section below what physique goals you're dedicating yourself to right now and if you're having any struggles. I've also put some free resources below too, so feel free to check those out as well. Do like and share this video if you found it helpful, and be sure to subscribe too so I can keep bringing you more content like this in the future. Thanks for watching and see you next time.